not in a super comfortable spot. All right, everybody, I'm gonna be going through Clancy. If you haven't heard, 21 Pilots dropped an album, pretty big one. Has a lot of hype around it because it has been kind of advertised as the sequel to Trench 2. Kind of hear that in the opening track. A lot of buzz around it. Critic reviews are not that great, kind of following the pattern of the last album. Anyone that knows me knows I like this band a lot, and I'm just trying to figure out how I feel about it. So all I'm gonna do is kind of go through track by track, mention the music video some, because if you didn't know, they dropped a music video for every single song on the record, which is an undertaking in and of itself. But I'm gonna go through track by track. So starting with Overcompensate. You know, Overcompensate was the first single that they put out. Right there in those first like 20 seconds, it's kind of telling you we're going back to Trench.
Welcome back to Trench.
Which has a specific sound in and of itself. The whole world building aspect of it is very impressive in Trench. And I won't go fully into all the lore because that would just take too much time, I think.
Yeah, Editor Nathan here. I'm gonna pop in every once in a while to remind you of things that idiot forgot about. So just starting, I am actually going to explain a little bit of the lore. Basically, all you need to know is that Trench is kind of this analogy for mental health, and it's kind of this landscape world that Tyler created in his mind to help himself wrestle with his depression and anxiety. And all you really need to know is that Dima is the city within Trench, the main city within Trench that is ruled by 9 bishops, the head of which being Nico, who kind of rules and oversees everything and is constantly capturing Clancy over and over again, who is escaping out into the wilderness constantly and trying to escape the cycle and the religion of Dima. And without going into it that much, I think that's about all you need to really know. Just know that this album is supposed to be the pinnacle of Clancy finally coming and confronting Nico for the final time and winning. We'll see. I don't know.
Just know that this album was supposed to be a continuation of that storyline. It comes in hitting hard like a Trench song would. You know, it's got that spooky beat with those like kind of horns in there. As the title suggests, it's a bit of an overcompensation, I feel like, of this kind of sound. Compared to the last album, it's just more so fitting of the time in Trench. I really like the bridge. You know, I'm listening to this as it comes out and I'm like, we're so back. I'm like, Trench is coming back. This is so hype. Music video does the same thing, kind of establishes where we are back in the lore. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how this album was never advertised as a sequel to Trench or coming back to Trench, and I just don't understand that, because yeah, I think it's saying that. So, you know, we leave Overcompensate going to Next Semester, which is like this Green Day British pop punk, like heavy hitting, heavy on the bass guitar. I kind of, in my head, it sounds like, I don't mean this as an insult, but it sounds like something that would happen, you would listen to in a FIFA title sequence. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I'm just saying. I really like how the song is structured. You know, they had mentioned on their live stream that it went through a lot of changes structurally of what it had to look like. The changes from the really fast tempo, hard-hitting sections to this more dreamy aspect, which is also, you know, mirroring what the lyrics are talking about. He remembers being in this state, dreamlike trance thing, daydreaming in the middle of the road. Car comes by and wakes him up. And then we're back to, you know, like the heavy guitar and the drums coming back in. The switch between the acoustic and the other section is very good. I really like the mix on this song. So yeah, I think it's a great song. I think that this might be the best song on this record, in my opinion. And I'm gonna differentiate between best and favorite, because although it is one of my favorites, it's not my favorite. I do think it is the best. It's well produced, well mixed. I think everything about it is really, really clean.
Yeah, I don't think I say it, but Paul Meany just deserves a lot of appreciation for the production. The production is very clean throughout. Ever since they started collaborating with him, there's been a distinct difference in the production value of each record. So yeah.
So I think that's very interesting. Then we kind of go into Backslide, which is the third track on the album, and I think that this song really establishes what the theme of Clancy is all about, which is the idea of coming out of a season where your mental health is more or less under control, and not under control but manageable, and the idea of backsliding and the fear of going back to that place where you weren't as in control over your mental health as before. And so this track kind of just establishes that as the theme, I think, of the entire album. This idea in the song of stuff coming back up that was swept under the rug. I really like the instrumental outro on this track. I wish that as a whole this album had a little bit more instrumental breaks. There's bits and pieces here and there, but I just wish that the instrumental was given a little bit more chance to shine. Like I said, I really like the outro of Backslide, and I really like Backslide as a track too. It's just not my favorite, I don't think. So after Backslide, we get into Midwest Indigo, which, as Tyler had mentioned, it's his track to Ohio. The track has kind of two meanings for who the main person in the song is. I think it can also be Ohio, but it's also obviously a person. I think that this song is the most early sounding top song.
We got a watcher here. Anyways, I feel like this song is the most sounding like something that would honestly come off of Regional at Best and Vessel, definitely. It's the straightforward piano chords are very similar to something that you would see on Vessel, and I can't really personally relate to the coldness of Ohio, but one of the times I did go, it was like -17 where I was, so I understand. And if a person is as cold as that was, then I'd probably make a song about them too, pointing out their abrasiveness. You got anything to say?
You know, the detuned synths at the beginning, and as the song goes on, I like the music video. I thought the music video was fun. I really like how Jim got a shout out on Tyler's pick. I thought that was cute. There are interjections in this song of a call and answer. There are calls and answers within this song of a person that's coming off super angry. I wouldn't say angry, but annoyed and very ticked off easily. And the song kind of goes on, talking about how this person or this place is so cold. And I think that it could mean Ohio and this person, because I think this person is a product of their environment. This track I didn't really like the first time I heard it, but it's really grown on me a lot. I think it's got a lot of charm. I think it would be a good song to listen to in the winter time. We're in the middle of May right now, and I just I like cold weather, and I wish it was colder outside. Going on into Routines of the Night, I think this track is the catchiest, and I think it has the most mass appeal. And I saw some numbers the other day of which tracks were the most popular stream-wise outside of the tracks that were released as singles, and this was it. So that kind of confirmed that. Really catchy chorus. Concept's pretty simple, just an idea of not being able to sleep and kind of going through the rooms in your head and kind of revisiting past memories, revisiting past experiences, that kind of keeping you awake and not being able to sleep. I like the twinkling synths that go throughout the track and the pre-chorus. But I think it's more of a simple song. There's not really a lot of derivations throughout. This is a track that apparently Josh fought pretty hard on to keep on the record. But Vignette, the next track, is my favorite track on the album. It's got a really epic intro, and then the slamming drum comes in with super groovy with the bass, and it's got that synth instrumental in it. One of the only instrumentals it's probably the longest instrumental on the album. The lyrics kind of tell a story of addiction and coming out of a night in the woods with very visceral lyrics like covered in bites, becoming a zombie out in the woods, and not wanting the vignette to close in. If you don't know what a vignette looks like, here it is, I guess. The first time I heard it, the high parts of the chorus, I did not even think that was Tyler because of how high it was at first listen. The lyrics also about not being for him but for a friend is kind of consistent with this kind of addiction story where one person will be too embarrassed to admit that they need help or that this or that. Song, I really like the mix. I think the cutting away of all the instrumentation and the drums right before the chorus hits, I think will make this song really fun to hear live. Yeah, the more I listen to this track, the more I love it. I think it's very MGMT inspired, the bass at least, and the vocals. I really like it a lot. It's definitely the one that I'm gonna be listening to the most. This kind of passes like the car test for me. Like if you want to know if a song's really good, can you like belt it in a car? And I think this one is the one that fits that the most. And in the Craving, so I want to talk about the Craving music video in a little bit.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about the music video, but the single version video is very interesting, and I would say that you should go watch it. It is basically an analogy of how the industry treats artists who come out with albums that are not necessarily like super popular with critics and stuff, and that's what they're kind of associating their last album, Scaled and Icy, with. And it's just a little look behind the scenes at how much artists that care about their work put into their work, and then the industry just treats it as any other thing, any other money-making machine, and doesn't care whether or not it's something that comes from a creative mind or not. But I could spend a lot more time talking about that music video because there's a lot behind it, but I won't.
For the single version, there are two versions of this song that came out. One is Jenna's version, Tyler's wife's version, which she, I'm assuming, liked more. And then there's a single version. I'm just gonna talk about Jenna's version because it's the one that's on the album. It's a super stripped back love song. It's very emotionally raw, and it's about Tyler's kind of insecurities at the beginning and even continuing in their relationship, about not being able to fully communicate his feelings for her, and he hopes that that won't deter her from entering this relationship and being in this relationship. There's even a part in the song where you can hear his voice kind of crack, and I just think it's very like wholesome, and I think it's very sweet, and I really like this song. You know, Jenna gets a song on every record that Tyler writes for her, and I think this one might be the most emotionally potent, at least Jenna's version. You know, this idea that struggling with one's mental health will affect being able to communicate with a loved one. I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, and I just think it's very beautiful that he would put a track like this on the record. It's very different. The production is not as clean, but I think that's kind of the point. You know, this sounds like an earlier version of the song. I think it's also a good break of kind of the hard-hitting songs that surround it. And on the other side of the Craving, though, we have Lavish, which is an interesting song. It is the most unique sounding song that I've heard them put out in a while. And I know a lot of people think it's kind of a little too quirky, but I can't stop listening to it. You know, it's mocking high-class society, and it's kind of putting on this caricature of almost like the Capitol from the Hunger Games. And I just think the music video made me love this song a lot more. And I kept talking about how weird I thought this song was to my wife. She kind of pointed out that I actually liked it, and because I couldn't stop talking about it. And I think she's right. I think it's a song on the record.
This is a really random take, and I don't know if anybody's going to understand what I'm saying, but this song sounds like if M79 by Vampire Weekend was given to 21 Pilots instead to mess with. And I have no other comments.
I can't stop listening to it for some reason. It's also got the line, if you know what I'm talking about, the line, which I'm not going to go into, and I cannot believe that that's something that he put out. I just can't believe he put it out there. Anyway, the next song is Navigating. It's track number 9. It's kind of this alt-rock anthem. It's got these wavy synths that you would hear in like Stranger Things or something like that. I think it's similar to Routines in the Night in concept, lyrically, mentally speaking, and not having a hard time navigating what that looks like. You know, it adds on this kind of fear of death and like seeing loved ones around you go away and fearing that and causing that to not allow you to be present, grappling with the fact that everything ends. This song is also super catchy, and it's also a song that Josh fought to keep on the record, which I am just kind of glad to see how much, at least how they've been transparent with how much each of them have fought for certain songs to be on the record. I think that's kind of cool. The music video has a lot of lore associated to it, and I'm not going to go fully into that right now. Like I said, I think this song is similar to Next Semester in terms of sound. It actually begins or ends the same way that Next Semester begins. So that's just to tell you how similar it is. But going into track 10, Snapback, this was my least favorite song on the record at the beginning. It's actually grown on me so much. Like I said, there was not a ton of instrumental on this album, lengthy instrumental, but the outro on this song, the synth pop outro on this song is really good. I really like it a lot. And I also really love the lyrics at the end, praying for elasticity to return to where it was. the concept of the song is this kind of, it's time to lock in. I need to like get my stuff together. If I want to, the line is, if I want to snap next, I gotta snap back. This album is supposed to kind of be the culmination of all these years of world building to defeat the final antagonist, Nico. So it's kind of himself like hyping himself up, continuing the theme of backsliding. Kind of just, I need to get back into the game, and I need to put my money where my mouth is and be in the best condition I can be to fight the final boss. Oldies Station is a really sweet song, kind of about time going very fast, and as you're going through life, your own personal demons adapt to those times as you do. The encouragement of the track is to push forward when the dark times come, to try to be better, even to make attempts that you don't know if you'll be able to fulfill. You know, just work to be better and work to get better. You know, he said he wrote that song for his fan base, and I just really appreciate that a lot. As someone who's listening to them for almost 10 years now, it always astounds me how much they care for their audience. So he said, you know, Midwest Indigo was for Ohio, and the Craving was for his wife, but this song was for us. And yeah, I just really like it a lot. This one's on repeat a lot. I really like this one. Second to last track, At the Risk of Feeling Dumb. I'm gonna be careful with this one because it's got it's kind of a serious subject about checking in on friends that you think aren't doing well, because the worst that can happen is that, you know, you feel dumb, I guess, for asking. But the risk of feeling dumb is not worth losing a friend. This is a very rock heavy song. My main issue with this track, and I think I have more issues with this track than a lot of other ones, is I just don't necessarily get the quirky preppy intro. Associating that with such a serious topic is kind of weird to me, because you transition to that into this kind of heavy guitar and drums. Like, this is a rock song with a little flashes of reggae sprinkled in there in true 21 Pilots fashion. Like I said, I think it's a good message and everything. It's pretty straightforward what the song is about. This was one of my favorite music videos as well. I thought it was super cool how they did getting on top of that building and stuff. I just thought that was really neat. Last track on the album, Paladin Strait. This song sounds like something you would listen to sailing on a raft. I don't know if that makes any sense. It kind of is like, at least the first portion of the track is super, like the calm before the storm of fighting. It's supposed to be the final track that we build to into the confrontation with Nico, the main antagonist. The ukulele kind of gets more technically advanced as the track goes on. You know, comes in, the synth starts to come in as well. I had mentioned that the Paladin Strait video hasn't been released yet. So the video I'm going to be playing in the top corner is the I Am Clancy video, which if you haven't watched and you don't really know what's going on here, it's a good recap. It's put out by them, so it's kind of the official stuff. You know, we've built up all this time over the past 10 years to tell this story. We, not me. And the track is kind of like, we put in all this time to this. I've got to put my money where my mouth is, and I got to finally finish this once and for all. And then the outro, well, before I get to that, there's then a minute of bird noises, which, you know, I like bird noises. You can probably hear some birds right now. They're everywhere. They're flying in the trees all around me. But I don't know if I needed a full minute of it on the album, or, you know, I didn't need a full minute. I could have used a little bit of it. I think that could have been saved just for the music video that has yet to come out. That's the only track that we have not seen yet. And it ends really abruptly with Nico kind of catching Clancy off guard. And the track, the whole album ends on a cliffhanger. He said on the live stream, take a listen to this song and what do you think? Do you think this is the end? And absolutely not. I don't see how this is the end in any way. I kind of want to talk about this album as a whole now. You know, they mentioned in the live stream that they don't think they're going to win any more awards. And, you know, that could be true. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know. But I will say I think this album is more for their fans than the industry as a whole for them. And I think that the kind of scattershot different mixes on the album are kind of indicative of that, because I think there's a sound for every era of their music career this far, not just what made them win a Grammy. So trench sounding songs. I was a little disappointed with how this was marketed as Trench 2 in a lot of ways. And people have been gaslighting other people for thinking that, but I think you're just kind of coping if you don't believe it and you don't look at the facts for that. But there's been a lot of talks about things being seen in the fan premiere exhibit, hinting at a double album.
So some new stuff has come out called Clancy, The Digital Remains, which for those not into 21 Pilots, it's not going to matter as much and you're not going to go through it as much, but it's basically a lot of the art. And I don't know how I would describe it. Let me see how they describe it. It's just more of a deep that it's kind of just a look behind the scenes at the creative processes behind the album, and people have already been picking out stuff that have been pointing to the fact that there's going to be another album. If not another album, at least a few more songs and some more material. As a designer and a video person, I really like looking at the behind the scenes stuff. So this was an easy $5 purchase for me. Looks really cool. I'm not going to show a ton of it because I have no idea what copyright looks like with this kind of thing.
And that this is not the end. Not necessarily a double album, but at least something else is coming. And Tyler pretty much said it too. I mean, this album sounds more like the pre-game jitters to the final battle, which is completely fine. I just don't think it was necessarily marketed that way. And I think that a lot of people are going to be upset for that reason. And a lot of critics are not going to really understand if they're not paying close attention to what's going on in the community with what's being teased at us. They're going to see this as a super, super underwhelming finale to 10 years of world building. And fair enough, there's not much lore in the tracks as there was kind of expected to be. And that expectation might have been a little bit too unfounded, but I still think that we were expecting a little bit more. But that being said, I really have enjoyed this album a lot. It's really grown on me from my first listen. And I've been mulling over how I truthfully feel about this album, and it's been almost impossible to separate, the online hype from the community and the critics. Not a ton of critics have reviewed this yet, but the most that haven't loved it. But I've kind of had to go back to this place when I was first listening to them where I didn't really, it didn't matter what those people said. It's what do I feel something from these tracks? And I do. Multiple tracks of these, I do. And I think at least I get wrapped up into viewing music objectively. Like, is this technically the best thing that this band could have produced? Or is this some earth-shattering wave and break into the industry that we've never seen before? And you can't really lose the subjective element of music, because I don't think music was ever meant to be viewed solely objectively. That kind of loses the point of it. Does the essence of this album speak to me emotionally the same way that I 10 years ago would have been when I saw this weirdo in black paint on his neck and this goofball with colorful hair on stage? And I think it does. I'm always going to support them. I think this album is for the fans. Whatever comes out next, I'm not going to act like I can predict what it's going to look like. But if I had to guess, it's going to be more conclusive than this album was, because it's just not conclusive of the storyline. There's some people talking about how it is conclusive and that it's just pointing out the cyclical nature. How it is conclusive and it's pointing out the cyclical nature of mental health and just not being it a lifelong struggle on this side of earth, on this side of heaven. And that could be true, but I don't think that he would build this world for 10 years just for it to end that way, because there's no hope that way. And I really don't think that Tyler would want to tell this story and end it without hope. So we'll see what happens. I'm expecting more to come. But in the meantime, I'll be listening to this album on repeat. And it's not for everyone, and I know that, and that's okay. I don't know if it was made for you then. I think it was made for the fan base.
Realized I came off as a little douchey, and all I was really trying to say is that if you're not really a fan, I'm not going to expect you to like it, really. And that it's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with you if you don't like it or anything like that. My biggest critique of this album is that I think that the structure of it is completely out of order. It feels completely disjointed. And I wish we would have seen some more signs that it was going to be a double album before this dropped, because it really hit me that maybe this is it, and this was all that was going to happen for this storyline, which made me really sad because, you know, like I said, I've been following this band for forever, and I just was expecting more. A little recap, I think my favorite song is Vignette. I think the best song is Next Semester. I think my least favorite song on this record is, I would say Lavish, but I kind of ironically love it. Either At the Risk or Navigating. I think those songs are kind of similar in a way, but that's what I would say. Also, just congrats to the team for putting this out, Mark and all those fellas over there, because congrats on just getting all those videos out, I guess, because I know that took a long time, and I don't envy you, but at the same time I kind of do. So I think that I can only be okay with this album knowing that there's something else coming, and that this isn't it, and that the story isn't ending with what is on Clancy, right, as it stands.
A lot of the fan base has been pretty toxic to music reviewers and critics online, and I just think it should be said that just because somebody doesn't like a song that is probably very important to you, that doesn't mean they're attacking you. But yeah, I think that's about it. Did I say enough? Yeah. I'm thankful we got this album. I really like it. It's growing on me, just like any of their records does. It gets better with time the more I listen to it. And I think a good album will do that. I find new aspects in songs and in the mix that I didn't notice before and that I like a lot. I don't think this is going to be some sort of mainstream hit, but I would rather them make music that's important to them with messages that are important to them than cater to the ever-changing whims of the industry. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. I don't know if I'll be making, hopefully I'll be back to review whatever comes out next, because the story's not over. Like I said, I think this is pre-game. This whole album is a bunch of, I think it's just setting up the pre-game jitters before the final confrontation, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. Anyways, that's it. That's the video. Go stream Clancy.